Good morning, everyone. My name is Thomas Marcadet. I apologize for not speaking any Hebrew today. I hope it will be better next time I speak to you. So at least, shalom, good morning to everyone. I'm, as introduced, the financial lines leader for Marsh for the region we call Central and Southeastern Europe. And I'm going to try to walk you through cyber risk and help you navigate as much as possible in your role as insurers, as consultants in Israel. I've called this presentation Navigating Through Cyber Risks because it is a perfect storm, as we named it a few years ago, that is happening already in the market, that is impacting all clients with claims already. And the question was, let's say, is this going to happen? Are we going to have that storm? Or is this going to be very quiet waters flowing through the river? Actually, on the cyber market, I'm 34, but I'm already pretty old, so I'm sure you've seen this happening in your families, in your clients, in your colleagues. The market is changing extremely fast, and this is why we're going to try to give you a first view on that. I'm old, and I'm asking the question of recruitment. If I had to start my career today in the insurance industry, I'd definitely go for cyber because it is the most exciting place. So the question you're probably asking yourself when you're talking with clients, when you're talking to colleagues, is it too late? Yes, it's already too late. The cyber virus is much deeper, much more powerful than the coronavirus. And the question is, what do you want? What do you need? But actually, what do you want and need to hear, and what your clients want and need to hear? So, dear sailors, I'm going to try to help you navigate those seas in the next slides. By the way, maybe some of you think I'm a cyber expert. This is how I've been presented. Not really. What I am is a cyber insurance expert, and having worked with, let's say, more than 200 different clients, I have a certain understanding and expertise in what their needs are and how they can be catered to by the market. We should not present ourselves as consultants, as brokers, as cybersecurity experts. There are people who are much better at this. What we should have is some understanding of what the client's needs are in order to help them at best. So to give you an update on claims, and this is what I'm trying to bring as an outside look. I don't work on the Israeli market on a daily basis. Just a quick recap of what is cyber risks. Malicious attacks, accidental events impacting the IT system, so the data, both outsourced and in-house of clients, impacting the confidentiality of data, but also for the industrial sector, for the tech sector, the availability of data. This results in a financial impact that we're going to discuss here, which can be a loss of turnover, business interruption, all the additional costs to understand, repair, and recover, any third-party liability, as well as diverted payments. What I mean with diverted payments, you've all heard about social engineering fraud, fake president, fake suppliers. This is all part of the cyber risk. And we're not talking about insurance at all here, just about the risk in itself. What we've seen happening in the market is the NotPetya attacks in 2017 have cost companies more than $10 billion, and very large companies were impacted by that kind of loss. And what we see as Marsh is the total number of claims increasing year on year very fast. And more interesting, that the claims we're seeing are growing faster than the premium, than the contracts. So there is a trend picking up. It's not proportional to the number of contracts placed. It's actually growing faster. Especially the changing nature of the threat at the moment is so not only social engineering fraud, but ransomwares, the ransoms are going higher and become more frequent. Approximately, the average ransom now is 1% of turnover. This is what they might request from a company. And we've seen some quite large claims paid by the market that we have worked on. So at least a 75 million claim on Norsk Hydro, 50 to 100 million on Eurofins, and many more that are not public, and I'm not going to discuss specifically. I've seen social engineering fraud for 100 million paid by the insurance market, which partially explains the nature of the premium and the market today. Who is it impacting? Maybe this is important for your own clients in terms of sectors. So this is only based on our own data, but this is probably a good representation of the market. Financial institutions are the number one by far. Manufacturing, so depending on where you come from, Europe or the UK or the US, you might think that data privacy is a topical issue. Well, what we've seen mostly in Europe and in this region is a business interruption on manufacturing companies. Communication media technology, not surprisingly. Professional services, such as consultants, lawyers, and retail, obviously, big impact due to the numbers of credit card, online transactions. How long does it last? Well, the typical ransomware today will last at least 6 weeks for a full reconstruction. When you look at what happened in NotPetya, some companies were disrupted for 6 months. So a few years ago, we might be talking about a few hours of interruption. And this is what a good cybersecurity leader within a company will tell you. Actually, the reality is it's lasting much, 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 much longer. And hence, the disruption and the cost for a company can be much higher. So for us, it's a burning matter. To keep with the metaphor of navigating through cyber risks, not only is the sea moving, but also the ship is burning. So what can we do about it as consultants, as advisors to our clients? Well, probably an explanation is needed. An explanation to how to understand the risk, what is the cyber risk profile of my client, and actually each sector will have its different needs and requests. Understand it versus their peers. So what is the benchmark? How are other companies behaving? When we are advising a bank, they're asking us what are other banks doing. When we are advising an oil company, they're asking what are other oil companies doing. Then you can measure it, try to measure that. There are actually pretty nifty ways to measure that without going through a 6-month audit with benchmarks and with some models. I'll show you an illustration in the next slide. And then manage the risk. So once you've identified the need with your clients, design the transfer strategy in the most efficient way in the market. And I'll comment on the market. So as an illustration of how you can measure the risk, but this is the tools that we use, but there are a lot of other possible tools. This is the approach that we're giving to clients to measure their business interruption exposure, to measure their data privacy exposure, and how do they rank against their peers in terms of risk exposure. So we've talked about the claims, we've talked about what you can do about it. As we'll see, this has impacted the market a lot, and I've called it new coastlines because I believe a differentiation can be made, and this is something we often hear. Here you have numbers or growth rates of the market prices in FinPro, so financial lines, not cyber specifically, but cyber is a big part of it. Obviously, we have a D&O impact as well. What we're seeing is very interesting is the rates are still quite low in Europe in terms of pricing, and they're increasing not as fast as in other territories, specifically not as fast as in the UK, not as fast as in the US. What we see for, let's say, middle market clients, so companies below $750 million of revenue, which is probably the majority of your clients, the continental European pricing is about a third from the US pricing. What does that tell us? Is you think continental European insurers are stupid or American insurers are smarter? Well, actually, there's a good reason why this is that way. And if I go to illustrate this, the American market started with data privacy and with data privacy regulations, while in continental Europe, the cyber market was created from bank business interruption policies that evolved into a broader cyber policy. So it makes sense that it is that way, because the loss intensity has been quite different in those two markets. And this leads, this was, by the way, a slide that we use when we are training underwriters, explaining what is our view. This leads to a very different market. So in Europe, it's an integrity issue, lower rate on lines, and the qualitative underwriting process to understand what are the thresholds, what are the bottlenecks of the supply chain of your clients. So again, my advice is really to look at what is the business of your clients and where can the cyber impact disrupt their supply chain. A word on cover. This is what is happening. This is what is changing in the cyber market and what you should be aware of when having a discussion. These are the hot topics that you will find when discussing with insurers, when discussing with brokers, the frontier. Is there a war exclusion? How is it handled? How is it formulated? Property cyber, so the link between property insurance and cyber insurance. Is there a PI, E&O, professional liability cover within the cyber, or how is it excluded in the PI of, let's say, a bank, a telco? Is there a crime cover? A lot of clients need the explanation that there is a difference between a cyber insurance and a crime insurance, and that social engineering fraud is absolutely insurable, but under crime. CBI, contingent business interruption, so defining your IT system as the one of your suppliers as well. Penalties, fines, voluntary shutdowns, all of those are topics that are changing or moving in the insurance contract, so you'd be well advised to look at those topics or rely in some cases on the broker form. There is no right or wrong. This is what I want to put here, because it will really depend on what the client's needs are and how much he's ready to pay for these specific covers that I've described. There is a lot of flexibility and creativity in the market, and it's just a question of aligning on what is exactly needed. As an illustration, and I know this is going to be a topic for the next speakers, this is what we did for war exclusion, to have a look at removing some wordings we don't like, restricting some of the insurer's proposal, and try to carve back what we call cyber terrorism. The signaling that I have to close now. So in terms of next step, for you, for us, for everyone when we're talking about cyber insurance, and in a nutshell, inform the clients on the risk of the cover, understand the client needs and the market, choose your market entry point, this is very important, measure the sector risk, the client risk, and optimize the risk transfer, find the right cover. Thank you very much. Have a nice day. Toda raba.